So the keepers who rule the land, they have all the knowledge, or the majority of the knowledge, and this happened in the Civil War, or after the Civil War, a civil war in England. And it was the keepers who took over just because they had that knowledge how to rebuild and how to get peace on board. Now, there are different factions of people, but the main difference being they're city dwellers and they're the outlanders. The city dwellers are the ones who get most of the comforts that the keepers give them, while the outlanders are those people who, for example, the keepers are not so bothered about. They're out in the countryside, they're struggling on with their lives, they get more freedom because the keepers are not always surveilling them. So long as they're not threatening the peace of the land, they can more or less do what they want. And the city dwellers are the ones, they get audio vision, which I guess is similar to TV. They get air conditioning in their homes, but they're under surveillance a great deal. And it's like when they're at home, they can't really relax altogether because they never know whether someone's watching. They're not allowed to express unhappiness. They're not allowed to express sorrow. They're not allowed to quarrel and all those kind of things. The city dwellers also have different stratas. So the higher up the strata you are, the more creature comforts you get. So Esther, who's our protagonist, she's a mother of two, and she's a fourth strata woman. She's married, but her husband lives in a different city. But Esther, she's an empath, which means she can sense other people's feelings. She can sense whether, for example, they're telling the truth or not telling a lie, whether something's off, something like that. So long as they're not hiding their feelings so well, she can do that. So she can catch people unawares, and this is an important thing within the story. She's also a member of a dissident network group, an underground group which is trying and has been trying for a while to bring down the keepers. Because the keepers, although they give them creature comforts, they impose peace and happiness by also laying down certain rules. As I said, the city dwellers are not allowed to express certain feelings because it threatens the peace. Ordinary people are not allowed to be too learned. So this is how that works. The beginning of the book starts with Esther being called in for re-examination because one of her neighbours, who she hardly knows, has quarrelled. And of course that threatens the peace. But as it happens, re-examination, that's to say that she's put through certain tests to check whether she has ideas that could threaten the rule of the keepers. She's cleared of all this. But she's worried because she was worried then just because she knows she's a dissident, and she didn't want these thoughts to come up so that they could actually discover that she was a dissident trying to bring down the keepers. So the story is about, or the story pans out with Esther being a part of this underground group. She's connected to the underground in the outlands and the underground in the city dwellers. These are ordinary people, but they've been trying for quite a while and never really making any ground as far as breaking down the regime of the keepers, until one day Esther is contacted by another underground group or another dissident group, which is made up of members of the keepers. This is a dissident group of the keepers who think that the regime, the keepers themselves, the ones in power, have gone too far and they're taking too many liberties and they're no longer following exactly their own rules. So this group think that it's time to bring them down. And not only that, the keepers in power are actually killing off their own members because they see that these other people are being threatened. So these families, this new group, which is now called the Dark Ones, the dissident group, they feel that no, now it's time. Now it's time to bring them all down and start again. So they contacted Esther because, as we discovered, they knew that she has contacts with the Outlanders. So she was in a good position to do that. And the story is about how both Esther and this underground group and the dissident group are set out to bring down the regime and what happens through all this. There is a romantic storyline underneath all this, but it is interwoven in the sense that it works out well. It's not for me, that's to say, it works out well in the sense that it's not, it doesn't stand on its own. It is interwoven well into the plan. And the other thing about this book that I actually really enjoy, because it does span out on a very short space of time, but that's realistic because to bring down this regime, it's already said in the story that they only had a few days in which they could actually get the plan into action. So it all makes sense in that sense. And this book has been one of my go-to books for several years, actually, a few years back. And I'm still trying to work out why I actually enjoyed this book. But even when I turn a page, even when I open the book now, because I reread this story, I still find that it was, from my standards, it was well written. It's nothing that I felt this is difficult to read throughout, from beginning to end. I enjoyed the book. I enjoyed the style in which she reads it. I enjoyed the plausibility, the futuristic mind control. Why not? Perhaps high-level human beings can do that. Certainly had no problems with that. So I did totally enjoy this book. I don't think I always give these books justice by me talking about them, because I think I'm a bit too bland and I can't actually explain why I like books. So that I think I have to work on, but I would definitely say try it out. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, not your style of book, you don't. What would I also say? With Pauline Kirk, I see that she has written other books, and this is only recently that I've discovered she has written a few other books, but not very many. She has written a bit of poetry and she's written with other authors, but they're not very many. But now that I've found that she's written some other books, I think I'm going to try and read one that's called The Waters of Time and another one that's called Border of Seven. So if I do, perhaps I'll make a clip about that. Until then, thanks for watching, bearing with me. Bye-bye.